So it's, as usual, days go on, we get closer and closer into the end of the retreat, but it's not ended yet. And we don't know what might happen in the future. Because years ago, there was a friend, he was a New Zealand monk, Venerable Hum Wol. He ordained in the Korean tradition. And in that tradition, they were far stricter than Ajahn Brahm's relaxed to the max retreats. They could be very tough, and especially if you're a monk. You know, the Koreans, I don't know why, they're just really tough guys. So anyway, that in his first year as a monk, after his ordination, that they had their annual 60-day retreat. But their retreat was not like the retreat we're going to start soon over in Jhana or in Dhammasara. That was really enlightenment or bust. 60 days. And there were bells all the time. A bell to wake up at 4 o'clock, just to go to the toilet and then wash your face and then come back again. And then you would meditate. 40 minutes, over 50 minutes, meditate, 10 minutes walking. You walk all together. And then after 10 minutes, sit down again until breakfast. And breakfast, you wouldn't go out, to check your mobile messages. You'd sit there and the breakfast would be brought to you. And then after breakfast, somebody would take it away, or more meditating. And until lunchtime, 11 o'clock, whatever, and then your food would be brought there. You didn't move, from your meditation place. And the only time you could move to go to meditation place is either go to the toilet or go and see the master for interviews. Now, many of you had interviews with me. And it's so nice, how are you? How's it going? But this master was really fierce. And had his Zen stick. You cracked any joke, whack. And so he said, even if he had a question, he didn't dare to go to see the master. So just meditating, 50 minutes sitting, 10 minutes walking, 50 minutes sitting, 10 minutes walking, 50 minutes sitting, 10 minutes walking, until finally, the end of the day, so 10 o'clock. And you didn't have a bedroom. You lay down right where you were sitting. And then in the morning, gong, back to meditation again. 60 days of that. And this, is a very, very tough young man, and he was really going to go for this. If the Korean monks could do it, he could do it. So he was sitting there. Just even after one day, it started to hurt. After 2 days, he was in agony. And after 3 days, how can I manage to do this? Another 57 days to go. And then you look around and all these Korean Zen monks were sitting dead straight. And he had, it was called Kwailo pride. That's, Western pride. If they can do it, I can do it. And so he sat and got through the third night. And it was really hurting, so he went to sleep. I was stretching out, so nice. And as soon as he stretched out, gong, it was the morning again. And they still hadn't sort of really relaxed, so it was really tough. Many times he thought of getting up and running away. But, he pushed through. And after 1 week, the first week had gone past. There's no day counters. How many days have gone past, how many hours have gone past? 1 week had gone past. He said, well, it's only another 7 weeks to go. But it was something like when you've already sacrificed and endured so much, to not go a little bit further seems to be, being unfaithful for all the endurance and effort you put in so far. So he decided to keep on going. And it never got easier 2 weeks went past. If he could do 2 weeks, maybe just another week. 3 weeks. And he got to the halfway mark. I don't know what it is about the halfway mark. You think you're halfway, the rest is all going to be easy. Just like when you get to halfway in your life, 40. You say, that's not halfway. Come on, Ajahn Brahm. 50. No, middle age. You think, and it gets harder. So 4 weeks, and he was just really struggling. 5 weeks went past, and he didn't know how he managed to survive so far, but it'd be really, giving up now would have made all the other endurance meaningless. So he kept on going, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Never experienced so much pain and discomfort. But he committed, and he decided to push through. And of course, it happens, sooner or later you come to the last day of the retreat. He woke up tired, aching all over, in pain, sore knees, sore back, sore left toe, sore nose. I don't know if he had a sore nose, but probably felt that way. Everything was sore, but he only had 1 more day to go. Actually, not even a whole day, because it finished in the late afternoon. And in that tradition, after the retreat was finished, they would celebrate. They would have a really big feast, and then hot baths. So even the first meditation, he just was dreaming of those hot baths, just pushing his legs out and just relaxing. And just how wonderful that would be. All the aches and pains. No more having to sit. Maybe just go for a walk in the forest and just be free and do what he wanted. No more this blooming sitting and walking and stuff. He'd had enough of that. After 60 days, this is the 60th day. And so that last day, I don't know what it is on last days, they lasted forever. It was like 1 hour got extended and stretched, like somebody was warping time. And that last 50 minutes, when the last 50 minutes said, only another 50 minutes to do. And he was just, he could smell the feast, he could dream of the hot water. He could almost visualize the steam coming out from the bath. As at last he could relax. Only another 49 minutes to go. And then as he was dreaming of that, he was sure 10 minutes had gone past. He took a peek at the clock. Only 1 minute had gone past. And it was just excruciating. So, okay, now come on, you can do this. Another peek. It hasn't moved. And then he started to wonder, as you do, is there something going on there? Maybe the batteries run out in the clock. And maybe the teacher doesn't know that. Maybe that clock is going to get stuck. Clocks do go wrong sometimes. He said, should I warn somebody? All the other monks were sitting there quietly and peacefully and so, don't know. And then he closed his eyes and he opened his eyes again. Yeah, it is stuck. It's only gone round about. And he was just, it was just such a struggle. It's like, he hadn't really felt pain before. This was it. The last 40 minutes. It was really, pain was giving him everything it got. He thought he was going to explode in screams and tears. It was hurting so much. And he opened his eyes. Another 30 minutes, impossible. And it was like that to the very, very last minute. But finally, this too will pass. Everything comes to an end. You can't go on forever. And so he heard the sweetest sound he'd ever heard in his life. I don't know what music you like, whether it's Tchaikovsky or whether it's, of course, you all like the music of Brahms. Ajahn Brahms. And it was the most delightful sound he'd ever heard in his life, the last gong. And in that euphoria of having made it, he'd done something very difficult. He stuck it out, even though it was torture. even though it would make sort of Abu Ghraib prison look like a holiday camp. This, I was going to say like Jhana Grove. But this was, it was just bliss. And he said, the hot bars, yes, bring on the hot bars. And he was about to bow to finish off the retreat. And, one moment, please. Said the master, the teacher, I have an announcement to make. During your interviews, many of you have been complimenting how useful, how beneficial this retreat has been for you. And you made such great progress. And a couple of you have asked me to consider extending the retreat for another 2 weeks. Having considered that, I think it's a very good idea. Carry on meditating. And this poor old Hamwal, you really can feel for him, crossed his legs. But he said he never felt any pain. It was weird. He didn't feel any pain because he felt like sheer anger. The worst rage he'd ever felt. And he was figuring 2 questions he had to answer. Number 1, who are those damn monks who made that suggestion? And number 2 was what he was going to do to them, the torture, the things he was going to do to make up. He wasn't thinking very much like a monk at all. And it was amazing, he said, he didn't feel any pain, and 10 minutes went past like a flash. The previous, sort of 50 minutes went like an eternity, but when he was really angry and upset, 10 minutes went past, and retreat over. And this poor, all the monks got up and bowed and got off to get the hot baths, and he was looking around, what's going on? Is the retreat over? Is it not over? What's happening? That's when one of the senior monks came up to him and said, look, the master does the same trick every year. And so he said, I remember telling me this story, and he told me, he said he learned more in that last 10 minutes than over the 60 days of the retreat. So much insight came from those last 10 minutes. Why is it that with only another 5 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, 1 minute to go, anticipation, that is torture. And then, and when you hate somebody, it doesn't hurt at all. Because all your attention is out there somewhere. You don't know what's happening inside of you when you hate someone, you're upset at somebody. You're not really even aware of yourself. You're just, what I'm going to do to that teddy bear. But that's one of the problems when you do have anger and hatred. You don't realize what it's doing to you and how it's scrunching up, hurting, it's killing you. Because your whole attention is out there somewhere. You're not looking inside at the source of the anger and how burning and how hot it is. So anyway, he learned so much there, and he learned not to anticipate, not to expect. The future's uncertain. Who knows what's going to happen? But when you try and predict the future, you become a prisoner of your expectations. In other words, it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, you get so upset. You just make all of your plans around what's going to happen in a couple of days' time. When you think, you imagine, you expect to go to the airport and fly back. That's just an imagination. Expectation. Who knows? In fact, actually, many of you have been benefiting from this retreat. But that's why we try not to have expectations. And we also learn that how, enjoy the peace you have here when you have it. There were, in that book, the first book which I wrote, Opening the Door of Your Heart, and I put a little, you're supposed to have forewords, introductions, all that rubbish. So I decided to, actually one of the things I said on there about books, it was when I was in UK as a lay Buddhist. And there's not many teachers would come, so we did get a Zen teacher to come and visit. He did a tour around England for a couple of weeks. And I went to his first talk and his last talk. It was in the Thai temple in Wimbledon. No, not Wimbledon, it was in Richmond at the time. And so this Japanese Zen monk, he couldn't really talk very good English. He had a try, mostly through an interpreter. And it wasn't very sort of helpful because he didn't really understand the culture yet. But after two or 3 weeks touring around England, he came back and to give his last talk. He learned some English during his talk. A very smart monk. And somebody asked him the obvious question, what do you think of Buddhism in England? And he replied in English. So articulate. A few words, but used to great effect. He said, Buddhism, 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 England. Books, books, books. Too many, too many, too many. Dustbin, dustbin, dustbin. How eloquent that was. A man of few words, but he uses them with great power. But it is true. He got so many books, and just we write so many books, and then does it really help? If you actually look in the suttas, sometimes the Buddha would just say a few words, and then people get enlightened. You only need a few words. But these days, we've got whole libraries. Not actually, my time, we used to have libraries that used to be this big. Now they're tiny little things which you put on your computer. And you've got sort of the whole Tripitaka in several different languages. And not only that, all the commentaries as well. Just all on a tiny little chip. To me, when I was young, chips was what we used to eat with fish. No. Anyway. But anyway, sometimes, books are useful sometimes. But don't overdo the books. Do the practice. What Ajahn Chah used to say, he said the books are like the dessert, the sweet course. And the practice, what you actually do, that's like the main course. That's the rice and curry. That's the potatoes and veggies. That's the dumplings and the noodles. The sweet course afterwards, he said, that's the theory of the books. And make sure you have plenty of main course, so you can understand what those books are actually saying. But anyway, in that book which I did write, I was tricked into writing a book. Because what happened, for those of you who don't know the story of opening the door of your heart, like much of your life, sometimes these things just happen, and it's almost meant to be, but you do a little bit, but it's just you go with the flow, and these things happen because all these stories I tell you, and I've been telling them for years and telling them, and in a small group over in Armidale, it's a low socio-economic area, and so poor people go there, mostly poor people, to go there because they think, you live in Armidale area, low socio-economic area, at the back, so poor Burr, so you can see she's only got white clothes on, nothing else to wear. Is she meditating or asleep? She must be asleep. Anyway, this lady came up and she said, thank you so much for your stories. It got her through a very difficult divorce. It can be just, it's worse than a cancer sometimes. They're just so hard to bear, and kids, and just all the hopes and dreams of a wonderful relationship gets shattered, and it hurts so much. But anyway, the stories which I had told had got her through the divorce, And so she had a life in front of her. She said she probably would have committed suicide if it wasn't for some of those stories I told her, 2 bad bricks, and open the door of your heart and this too will pass. So she said, Ajahn Brahm, it's basically criminal of you if you don't write those stories down and share them more widely. You should share them. And I was I'm too busy, I haven't got the time, I'm a monk, I'm not an author. And so she said, okay, I'll write them. And so she wrote out 3 or 4 of those stories and handed them to me, and I read them. And it was hopeless. She couldn't write good English. And so I said, I'll write them. And once I started writing them, I told her, you got me, you tricked me. You probably did it on purpose. Make a terrible job on it, so it made me want to do it myself. So I started writing them all out. And I do remember just even writing them. It's like whatever you do in your life, you say get into the zone. In other words, don't force it. Because I remember those stories. I remember the first half of that book, the first 50 or almost 60 stories, I wrote down in just 2 weeks, 1 hour a day. I just wrote them down, meditating, just wrote them down, and there it was. There was no effort at all. It was just an hour just writing, and you didn't even change the. It's written out by hand, not typed. Didn't even have to sort of make any corrections. It was just all there. It's wonderful when those things happen like that. And we're trying to find the manuscript. We gave it to somebody because that would be worth a lot of money. But not money, but it just, how on earth did that happen? But anyway, so once you've got a book, you've got to get it published. So, and you can't carry a manuscript written out by hand. So I got somebody to type it up for me and put it on a disc. And when he first finished the disc, the old CDs, what's it called, floppy disk or something like that. Anyway, so I got one of those, and he just finished it, and I was just going to Melbourne because I'm also the spiritual advisor of the Buddhist Society of Victoria. That's where we're building a monastery over there, and I just put it in my bag. Just before I got on the flight, didn't know who to go and see or what to do, and I don't know how to get something published. And so the first talk at Melbourne University, and just a Buddhist group there, and after giving the talk, this lady came up to me and said, it's a wonderful talk, Ajahn Brahm, we really like your talks. If ever you have anything to publish, please let me know because I work in the publishing industry. I never needed to make any phone calls or go anywhere. It just literally came to me in the bag, here we go. She was stunned and I was sort of stunned. Of course, it did really well after that. But in the front of that, you're doing forwards and stuff. I wrote this little poem. It's a translation of a Chinese poem, I don't know where, but it was a very beautiful one. And it's going to be basically what I'm going to talk about this morning. It starts off, I think, if I get it right, grant yourself a moment of peace, and you will notice how foolishly you've scurried about. I like that. There we go here, we go there, we go rushing over there and rushing over here. When you find some peace in your life, in your day, where are you running to? And sometimes just being here. You're here another day or two, going to Nuns Monastery this afternoon. Beautiful place, just to be. It's a wonderful thing. Don't scurry too much. Sometimes when you go back home to where you live, you've got to rush through the traffic and you've got to sort of do 2 things at the same time. It's our modern life. But while you're here, take the opportunity. You don't need to run around and scurry and come here and do this. When you've noticed peace, a peace of mind, peace of body, just peace in your day, it's much more valuable than diamonds or gold or lots of money in the bank account. Peace. Imagine what peace feels like and how valuable it is. If you had a precious rare diamond, which you found, you would be checking it, you'd be making sure you don't drop it, you'd be putting it in a safe. But things which are far more valuable, such as peace, we throw that away too easily, and we let it sort of slip out of our grasp. So if you want to be attached to anything, or value things is a better word, whenever you find some peace, don't disturb it. Value it. Cherish it. Now we do have temples, but what's the purpose of a temple? A church, a sacred spot. Its purpose is to give you some peace. To have this wonderful thing called peace available for anyone who wants to walk in. They don't need to have peace described and defined and argued and philosophized about. Still, I remember that as a young man in London, it's a very busy city, you get tired, and you can go and sit in a park, but it will be raining, or something will be happening there. But I always used to like going into the big churches and old cathedrals in London. And one of my favourite places was Westminster Abbey. Not a Christian, but I just enjoyed the huge spaces and the quietness there. It was so big, you can find a nice quiet corner and just sit down and relax and meditate. And that was like a refuge for me in London. Except the last time I think doing visas to get to Thailand and all that busyness before I became a monk. And I was really tired, and I went into a bit burnt out, went into Westminster Cathedral to find a nice quiet place and sit down and relax. And I was just so disappointed. Someone had desecrated that cathedral. They'd installed PA system. There was sound 24/7, announcements, sermons, whatever it was. There was no silence anymore, no stillness. It was noise. Noise announcing, where you can get a copy of this or a book about that, but it was noise. I always thought that sacred spaces should be silent, and the silence should be respected, because that's what people feel. They need some peace. And to emphasize that, one of the friends from Perth, a Buddhist, he went to go to Thailand to visit some of the temples. And he told me in a busy part of Bangkok, he went into one of these big wats, temples. And he was going to go into the main shrine room to bow, maybe to offer some incense, flowers, and a donation or something. But as he was going into the temple, he saw on a little bench outside there was a young woman who was crying her eyes out, sobbing. And he thought, I should help her. I should know, she's obviously in trouble. Maybe I could be of service to her. But then he thought, being an Australian, this is Thai, was it the right thing to do? Was it culturally appropriate? So he hesitated and decided against it. And he went into the temple and he did his stuff, about half an hour, maybe a bit of meditation or something, because when he came out afterwards, the woman was still there, but she wasn't crying anymore. She was just still red-eyed, but she was sitting there. She'd obviously got over whatever it was. And he thought, maybe now I can just ask. So he went and sat next to her and said, what was the problem? Is there anything I can do? I saw you when I went into the temple, you were really crying. Is there anything I can help you with? And she said, no, I've sorted it out now. What was the problem? She said, I lost my car keys. It's a small little thing, but have you ever had a small little thing that's almost ruined your whole day and you feel so upset? It's just one more thing. That's what happened to her. And all she wanted, all she needed, was just a quiet place. Just a quiet place to sort out, process the problem, get some perspective and realize, it's not the end of the world, and just to get some peace. And what she needed was a quiet place to do that. And that's why just having a quiet place, you may have come here, you may not even listen to any talks, or you may have heard them but not understood them, or heard them and thought you understood them. That doesn't really matter. Just coming to a quiet, peaceful place is incredibly helpful. It's therapeutic. There's one fellow it's a psychologist over in Sydney, and he does nature therapy. What's nature therapy? He just takes his clients in his car or van and takes them to these beautiful parts of Sydney, the heads, the rocks, or nice forests, or waterfalls. You can find a waterfall there somewhere. Into beautiful parts of nature, have a walk around. Doesn't sort of tell them any deep psychological secrets. Just was kind to them, have a nice walk, brings them back to Sydney, and charges them a few $100s for that. And it's effective, it works. Works for him anyway. But it's just, he realizes that just being sort of in nature, watching a sunset, just watching like the whales in the Pacific Ocean off Sydney Heads, just going into the forest, just feeling just taking your shoes off and getting your feet wet in the surf on the beach, all that sort of stuff just brings you some peace. It heals you. Because nature can be so beautiful, it stops you thinking. That you're dumbstruck with the beauty of nature. And that has a huge positive effect. Grant yourself a moment of peace. And you realize you're foolishly looking for solutions to problems. You can just be right here. It brings me on to that story of the Mexican fisherman. The Mexican fisherman story. There was a American on vacation on the Caribbean coast of Mexico. And just having a nice walk in the morning just by the harbour side. And there he saw this small fishing boat coming in. And the old Mexican captain, it's only a single operator, unload his catch, tie up his boat, and then just go walking home. And because of the tourist had a bit of time, he went up to the fisherman and said, "No, senor, good morning." "Good morning." He said, "No, I seen you just unload your catch. You're just going home, take a rest and going out this afternoon." He said, "No, I've just gone out this morning. I've caught enough fish for today. Now I'm going to go home and have lunch with my beautiful wife. After lunch I'm going to have a nice siesta, a nap. And after the siesta I'll be there when my children come home from school. I'll play with them and then help out, have some dinner. And after dinner, I'll either help my kids with the homework or just go out with my friends, play some guitar, go to the pub. Life is good." And the tourist said, "Well, I think I can help you because I'm a professor at a prestigious business school. I'm on vacation. We call what you're doing a waste of a resource. Tied up for so many hours of the day." He said, you go home, have a bite to eat, and come out in the afternoon. And you'll be able to catch with the same amount of resources, your boat, but a bit of extra effort on your part. Go out in the afternoon, you'll be able to catch twice as many fish. Now imagine, no other outlays except a bit of gasoline for the motor, but you'll be able to catch twice as many fish and the profits will make twice as much money. And with the profit you're going to make from that, instead of being lazy and taking siestas and all, you could make a bit more money so you can soon buy a bigger boat, a more efficient boat with a crew. And you'll be the captain. And with a bigger crew, a more efficient modern boat, you'll be able to catch about 4 or 5 times as many fish. And with that profit, you'll soon be able to buy a second boat. After about 5 or 6 years, you will own a fleet of boats. And then you'll be able to move your company headquarters to Mexico City, or even better, just go to San Francisco or Los Angeles or somewhere, or Houston. And there you can privatize your company. Or then set it on, and then do a IPO, whatever that means. I'll make this up as I go along. Sometimes I read this and I forget exactly what it means, but it means something like that. And then award yourself preferential share options, and then do a company buyback. And then you'll be a multi-millionaire or something like that. That's how it's done. I'm a business professor. That's why I teach other people to do it. It works. That's how the economy runs. And so the Mexican fisherman was being very polite and attentive. Oh yeah. But then the fisherman said, the Mexican said, "But Senor, once I've got many millions of dollars, once I'm a millionaire, then what would I do?" And so like many people, they only think as far as when they win the lottery, when they get their millions, when they inherit a fortune. They never think of what's going to happen next. So he said the professor, once you're a millionaire, you can retire. Retire to a nice fishing village like this. You can buy yourself a little boat just to go out in the mornings for fun. You'll be able to have lunch with your wife every day, and you'll be able to have a nap after lunch. And you'll be there for your kids when they come home from school. In the evening, if you want, you go out and play with your friends, a bit of guitar. But I do that already, Senor. And from that story, it's like we want to be rich so we can live like a poor person. Interesting, isn't it? So we don't have to work. But anyway, how foolish you're scurried around. Why? What are you doing that for? That's always time in which I ask myself, what am I doing that for? Writing that book, what did I do that for? Oh, I didn't know why, but it just happened, and there we have it. Even you're going this afternoon to Dhamma Nuns Monastery. What have we got a nuns monastery for? Isn't it enough to look after a monks monastery, and now a nuns monastery, and a retreat centre, so many headaches for poor Ajahn Brahm. But no, it's a good thing to do. And I mentioned some of the ways that we got that nuns monastery. When you see that in the this afternoon, in the very centre of the monastery, it was on auction how we bought that place. And I said that we wanted to, after a while, the monks monastery was, sort of okay, and then we thought, let's have a nuns monastery. And so I mentioned just try to get people interested, but it costs a lot of money. So big break was when we had that $250,000 check from somebody I've never seen again. That's why I think sometimes those things are devas, heavenly beings, or something's happening. But still, that wasn't enough. And so we were looking for property, and then they said, there's 30 acres on sale somewhere up Gijighan, up down Reen Road. And of course we went up there, and on the way there's this big board, 583 acres of perfect solitude. I said, well, that looks interesting. And this was Ron Battersby and Bianca. Now, people know Bianca here. And he said, no, you can't do that. It's impossible. We can't afford anything like that. It's out of our league. Oh, okay. So went up to the 30 acres, and that was just so uninspiring. And I said, look, if you're going to do something, this is for nuns, let's do it. Do it properly. Don't be so half-hearted. So I said, let's have a look. I said, you can't have a look. Of course you can have a look. It's not against the law. I want to look. That doesn't cost anything. So we went inside. And it was, as you see this afternoon, a huge piece of land. It's beautiful. It's absolutely perfect for a nun's monastery. So then, how much is it going to be sold for? On auction. On auction means you don't know how much it's going to be sold for. So we thought, okay, let's give it a try. Nothing to lose. But we did cheat a little bit. Because myself and a couple of other monks, we went to the site about an hour before the auction was scheduled to start. And we did some really strong chanting. We really laid it on the line to those heavenly beings. We did. I really blasted everything together with a couple of other monks. And then the auction started. And that's actually where I learned. I remembered this yesterday when I started saying about how we use speech. Because the auctioneer started off, welcome everybody to this beautiful piece of land. And now, and it's just a ridiculous price. Now we start at 3 million. 3 million, okay, 2 million. 1 million. Okay, he said, let's start off at 300,000. And of course, somebody put their hand up. 300, 325, 350, 350, 375, 389, 310. And that's when he started, just to really speed up, to get people excited so they'd say things they'd regret later on, but it was too late. But we had our auctioneer, and you see him tomorrow, good old Eddie Fernando. He was this amazing fellow. But beforehand, we had to have a little meeting, because, it's not individual, this is a community. We've only got a certain amount of money. And then I just asked people, kind of a loan here, a promise in there, and just a pledge here. And we added it all up, and just, it was going to be tough. But squeezing a bit here, squeezing a bit there, we could afford 600,000. Absolute max. No more than that. Impossible any more than 600,000. There's a lot of money in those days. We're not a rich society. So, and I couldn't say anything because I'm a monk. You're not supposed to have any money, let alone buy stuff. Well, my job is to convince the Davers to help out. Come on, you Davers. So what happened? We got up and it's exciting, and then Eddie, our guy, 600,000. And then I was using the power of my mind. Shut up! Nobody say anything. 625. Somebody put their hand up. And Davis, where were you? Why didn't you make that guy be quiet? And then Eddie, against all our instructions, 650. And our treasurer next week, stop him, he can't do that. We can't afford that. It's ridiculous. He's breaking the rules. He's got no permission to say 650. He won't be able to do that. So I had my work cut out, shutting up my treasurer. Sold for 650. And of course we found the extra money somewhere. It was such a beautiful piece of land, and that's where Dhammasava started. I always tell about good old Eddie Fernando breaking all the rules. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have a nuns' monastery. If he'd have done what he was told. But that's beautiful. Those are the things which I really like, when things happen and they're gorgeous and beautiful, unexpected. You go with the flow and strange things happen. So scurrying around trying to make things happen. A lot of times you sit down, they happen by themselves. It's wonderful that they just wait and just the karma's really right. Things go so beautifully and so easily. So anyway, grind yourself a moment of peace. You realise how foolish you've scurried around. Be kind. And you will notice, you'll realise your judgments of others was too harsh. They're kind. Sometimes it's so easy to judge other people for making mistakes or snoring or getting up late or just making a noise or dropping something, making mistakes. Oh, come on. Because when you're kind, it's amazing how much tolerance you have. One of the ways of developing loving kindness, may all beings be happy and well, blah, blah, blah. We've done that so many times. Sometimes in my loving kindness meditation, I imagine like a circle. I imagine a circle, and inside the circle, especially right at the centre, all the people, things which I really love and care for. It's so easy to get on with. Your best friends, the sort of food you like to eat, the climate you like, where you really want to be. That's things and people are right in the centre of your circle. And as you go out from the centre, there are some people, they're okay, but they may be a bit troublesome, but they're okay. They're also in the circle, but not in the centre. And then you go outside the circle, then you've got the irritating people. You've got these sort of the flies and the mosquitoes, especially those mosquitoes. I don't know why mosquitoes, they just bite you and get it over and done. We've got plenty of blood, I'm generous. But they don't just bite you. You know what they do? They go buzz, 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 buzz in your ear first of all to announce they're coming. Because I'm coming, I'm going to bite you. I know you're a monk and can't do anything about it. And then they go and bite you. Sadists, mosquitoes. So there are things like that. They're just on the outside of your circle. And you go further and further and further away. You get all the really irritating things, all the nasty things which have happened to you. The people who have cheated you, said wrong things about you, just defamed you, and just, there's some nasty people out there and nasty things. And that's further out from the circle. And I imagine expanding my circle. Just imagine it expanding. And then there's some people, you don't really like them, but actually they're not that bad. As you expand the circle, you can see many more of their wonderful qualities. Now they're inside. And you keep expanding. It's good fun expanding the circle. Allowing more people inside your heart, inside your I like you zone. And then there's more come in, and more come in. Oh, mosquitoes, you're having a little bit of blood, I don't know why you do that, it's genetically programmed, but okay, I know it's not going to be that much. Off you come and have an extra one on me. And then snakes, tarantulas. I used to love the tarantulas over in Thailand. Because in the hot weather, if you took a nap, because it's very hot, you lay on your back, you're sweating, being a Westerner, and just you keep your lower robe on, but your chest was bare. And the tarantulas, they would run on the ceiling, and sometimes they would lose their grip and they'd drop, and they'd fall on you. Big tarantula, like about this size. They were actually really tickly, they were quite nice. They never bit you or stung you. They're your mates, your friends. I said, come on. They were fine, nothing wrong with those. So anyway, so all of these expanding your circle, you get more in. And then you don't judge animals so much. You don't judge people so much. It's just a snake being a snake, that's all. The snake doesn't want to bite you. You're too big for snake's dinner. They just want to go where they want to go. You go where they want to go and say, snake, that's your way, this is my way. And then you're fine together. They don't bite you, they don't do anything. One of those other snake stories, I've entitled, snake stories are good snake stories, that I was doing some chanting. Every fortnight we do the Patimokkha chanting. And so I was doing the chanting, sitting up, doing the chanting, and right in front of me was this French monk, not the French monk I was talking about the other day, another French monk. And, he was listening to the chanting. And then as I was watching him, just like I was watching you now, and then I saw a little head poke up above his shoulder. It was a snake. A snake had sort of crawled up his back and just poked his head up to see what was going on. And if there's one photograph I would love to have photographed, it would be this one. Because the monk was paying attention to the chanting and the snake was looking at me as well. And then they both realised out of the corner of their eye and they both looked at each other. A monk and a snake eyeballing one another. And not knowing what to do next. But the monk was very good. He just very, very gently just let his robe down. And the snake very gently fell to the ground and went somewhere else. And a lot of life is like that, whether it's snakes or it's bosses or other people. They don't know why they're doing what they do, but they do it for some sort of reason, maybe in a bad mood, going through a bad time, difficult time, jealousy. I don't know why they do these things, but they do them. But anyway, that's just a blip in their character, not always like that. I don't know why you don't know them. I think I know them better than you do. And after a while, you expand your circle. Expand and expand and expand and expand until there's no edge to your circle. Let time go, crikey. So anyway, that's be kind, and your judgment of others and yourself was too severe. Because you're in your circle as well. Be kind to yourself. That sometimes people come up to me and say, I must be the worst meditator who's ever came in jhana growth. And I look at you and said, yes, that's right. No, I never say things like that. I do, but it's only for a laugh. I say, no, you're just the same as everybody else. So, you're not worse, you're not the best, you're just you. And lastly is be still and realise you've talked too much. I would change that these days. You've thought too much. Be still. You don't need to think so much. Save all your thinking, until you go home. You can catch up on your thinking. It's all right now, just enjoy being peaceful. And sometimes you look at some of those kangaroos or the birds or the little things which crawl on the ground. Do they think? Oh, they just are. The birds. Dogs especially are great. Because dogs, when they want to sleep, they just sleep. You can sleep anywhere. And they don't feel guilty. They're just natural beings, not thinking, not making a huge problem about their life. So, finish off. We talk about heavenly beings. What about animals? Do you think dogs can be heavenly beings? Angels that bark? Ghosts? Ghost dogs? Has anyone ever seen a ghost dog? They exist. Have a photo of one. Hee hee hee. That made you quiet, didn't it? No, there was just, some of you may know this gentleman, Pon, the Thai kickboxer. He's got a gym. And his neighbour was a builder. And so Pon knows the dog very well. But, like everything, the dogs get old. And the man had to take the dog to the vet, to be euthanized. It's old. So anyway, his neighbour held the dog in his arms, just in the vet surgery, as his dear dog passed away. It's tragic, but he knew it was coming, and it's the most compassionate thing he could do to his dear dog. His dog used to go to work with him every day. Sometimes builders do take their dogs with them, and the dog is by the building site, and looks after himself, but just likes to be with other people. So anyway, after the dog died, the next morning, when he got up, got ready for work, opened the door of the house to get into the car, when he opened the door, a dog ran right past him into his house. Spitting image of his dog, but it couldn't be his dog because his dog had died. Ran right into his house and went to every corner of the house, the favourite corners where the dog would lay down and take naps. He would lay down just for a few seconds, get up and go to another corner. And then the dog went just to, the outside veranda where there was a leaky tap, still leaking, hadn't been fixed yet. And that's where the dog would take a drink, especially in the hot days. And he'd drink from the leaky tap. And then he went to the bedroom where the builder's wife was still asleep, well, now half asleep. Because the dog, when it was alive, before it would go out with its master to work, would always go and say goodbye to his mistress. And he would lean up and he would kiss the mistress. And this ghost dog did that too. He went up to the bed, his wife was half asleep. The dog went up, touched the mistress on the lips, and his wife, not realizing she was half asleep, this was a ghost dog, as she would do every morning. And then the dog went down out of the house and went to jump into the back of the car to go to work. And at that, the owner, Pon's neighbour, said, "No, enough, go." And the dog turned around and ran down the street, was never seen again. The ghost dog, one last visit before it disappeared. And also, be careful. Any of you who sleep in the morning, when something comes to kiss you, be careful what you're kissing. That could be a ghost dog. But it wouldn't matter if that was your dog you'd known for such a long time, you miss it. Just one last visit. Then it vanished. It was just solid enough. Could even kiss somebody. Oh, that's a really cute story. Oh, I like that story. It's got nothing to do with the talk, but I thought it's a nice place to finish off. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. Did I hear a few woo, woo, woo? Must be the ghost dog is here as well. Okay, before you go, I want to finish on time. Where is Stella? Because she wants to make sure she's not put in jail for fraud or money laundering or whatever else it is. So take her over now because apparently there's some extra donations.
Yeah.
Yay!
With the retreat fee and donation we collect.
Can you all hear?
Yeah, the Hong Kong group, we have come up with 19,000 Australian dollars.
Whoa!
Ajahn.
Very good. And so that's going into my slush fund, or is it? No.
Yeah, yes, it's the right account number.
Okay, yes, very good. Okay. Very good. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu. Okay, blessing?
Yeah.
Sabbaroga. I could pop it, don't mess around that. Sabbaroga vinimuto, sabba santa pawajito, sabba vera matigando niputo chatuwang bawa, sabitiyo vivachantu sabbaroga vinasatu mate pawantarayu sukhi digayu gopawapi wadana silit sanichang vuta pacharino chataro dhammawatanti ayuano sukhang balang. Sadhu, sadhu. Very good.
Can we take a photo with it?
Yes, you can. Outside or inside?
Outside?
Okay.
It's not raining?
No, it's probably raining later on. So yes, outside. So please don't go toilet yet because you have to wait for this person and that person. So okay, you arrange everybody and then we can take the photo.
Maybe at the studio?
And you don't need so many cameras because we got something called email. We can share Dropbox. What else you got? Dropbox, Google, whatever, something, Photoshop. No, not photo. Don't use Photoshop. Otherwise, you make me look like something I'm not.